Morning. I'm not sure why, but of late I've been getting peppered with a number of questions about DD214s, and how to read them, and what they mean. So I decided to just Google search a DD214, and I pulled up one at random. Now, I'm going to go through block by block and sort of explain what these things, different items mean, and kind of how to read them, I guess, if you will. One of the things that I find people generally get confused about is they sort of expect the DD214 to list out every single thing that a U.S. service member has done the entire time they're in the military. That is not what these things tend to do. And they don't tend to put out that much information, and it tends to lead to a lot of confusion and so on. This is one of the reasons why I don't share my DD214, because one, it wouldn't really show you all that much, and two, it ends up putting out a lot of information that you should not be sharing, like your social security number, your full legal name, and so on. I just picked this one at random. I went ahead and went through it and tried to eliminate pretty much any sort of direct information that you can pull out to figure out who this veteran is. If for some reason you want to try to figure this out, please don't do that. Please respect the privacy of others. This is simply a DD214 that was on the internet. Why is it on the internet? I don't know. I will never put mine out there. The other thing I'm going to mention, because I don't want people worried about me, because I've talked in the past that I'm an alcoholic. I stopped drinking over 10 years ago. I've had some medical issues flare up at the start of this year, and it's been pretty severe. Nothing that's going to kill me, but unfortunately, I'm on medication that may cause me to stumble more on my words than I normally even do, more than I normally do. So I don't want anyone hearing me kind of slurring my words and stuttering and stuff and worried that I've fallen off the wagon. I haven't. It's just the medication that I'm on is pretty strong. So let's break this down. I'm going to go line by line and sort of explain how you look at one of these things. So let's just zoom in, move around, try to make it as easy for you all to see as possible. The top thing in the top left, this is an issue that I run into a lot with the veterans I try to help. They seem to think that a DD214 can be used as a proof of identity and so on. That's not the case. This document does not include really any sort of proof that you could tie from one person to another without supporting documents. So that's what that top left thing says. Caution, not to be used for identification purposes. This is an important record, safeguarded. That is absolutely true. If you lose this document, it is a nightmare to get a hold of another copy. I believe when I was in, it was New Orleans that they kept all the records, the physical records. And then after Katrina, it became a disaster. I don't know if they ever moved it or what have you. The top left, any authorizations of the shaded areas renders the form void. So that's basically like these colors here. I would argue that if you alter anything on this document, it's a kind of a shitty thing to do. Also, I apologize. I'm going to be drinking water constantly because I'm very, very dehydrated from my medical issue. And I want to go into it. Very first thing, like all legal documents, you need to make sure your name is correct. This is true whether you're a civilian or if you are a veteran. Please always keep an eye on this, whether you're purchasing a car, you're getting a new credit card or anything like that. You need to make sure that your last name, first name, and middle name is correct. In this particular example, this individual apparently served in the Army. Makes sense. If there was Navy, you would say Navy. If it's Coast Guard, Air Force, U.S. Marine Corps. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Next one, Social Security number. Pretty straightforward. Again, any kind of documentation that you need to have your Social Security number on it, you need to make sure that this is accurate. This is also why you should not, if you're a veteran, do not be attaching this document to like job applications and stuff. I get idiots all the time that I'm trying to help them transition into the civilian world, and they will just include a copy of this document for an application to like Home Depot. And it's like, what are you doing? Well, you know, they say they do preferential veterans hiring. Okay. When they ask for the information, that's when you provide it, and you're going to provide a redacted one. They don't need to have all this, like, because you have no idea what they're going to do with this actual document. This could be how this veterans document got out. You have to be proactive. So, grade, rate, or rank, and then there's pay grade. This is not only confusing for people that are civilians that have never been in the military, it is confusing for me. Because every single military branch fills out for alpha differently than every other branch. So what do I mean? Well, my job in my branch, it would show me a rank similar to how this one shows. This one shows private. Lowest rank you could possibly be in the Army. And then it shows the pay grade. Now, the pay grade is universal with all the 4 branches: Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and I would even include the 5, which is the U.S. Coast Guard. I would argue the U.S. Coast Guard are the hardest working people on the planet when it comes to the military. And unfortunately, they get screwed every time there's a government shutdown. When there is a government shutdown, I implore you to donate to a charity for the U.S. Coast Guard. Those folks don't get paid when there's a government shutdown. You already don't get paid a lot in the military. Imagine going like 2 months because a bunch of rich politicians want to screw around. So the grade, rate, and rank, the 4 alpha block, that's really confusing because, for example, rate. What does rate mean? Well, the way the Navy, and I think the Coast Guard does this, whatever somebody's job is, they have like 2 acronyms or like 2 letters. And then they'll add a number or something to it or a letter. So I knew a guy through the VA. And I remember him explaining how his rank, he said he was, or I remember he introduced himself, I'm IC2 balls. And I looked at him totally confused. I'm like, are you messing with me? Well, he was in the Navy. And whatever an IC guy is, that's what his rate was. That was his job. And then the 2 somehow symbolized his rank. And his last name was basically BALZ. So he was IC2 balls. It's the most wildest thing I've ever heard. But apparently that's what he had to go by in the military. And then I guess when he made the next one up, he'd be IC3 balls or IC1 balls, however it works. Everybody that I know, and when somebody asks me what my rank was when I got out, I just say E6 because it carries over. It's universal. There's 9 enlisted ranks, regardless of the branch that you're in. There's 9 officer ranks. There's like 3 or 4 warrant officer ranks. The fact that I don't know how many there are can tell you how many times I've dealt with a warrant officer. So this person, when they got separated, was a private, and their pay grade was E1, the lowest rank you could possibly be. Then we got our date of birth. Hopefully that is correct. If it's not correct, you're going to have some problems. So I'm going to jump very quickly, and I'm not trying to do this to be a dickhead, but I'm trying to explain what you should see in block 6 and in block 12. Because right off the bat, this is showing some wacky, weird stuff. First of all, you should not be separated as an E1. If you're getting separated as an E1, that is not good. So what a lot of people get confused about is they hear when one of us veterans say, well, how long were you in? We'll say like 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, so on. So let's do a thought experiment. Let's say I enlisted on January 2nd of 2000. I would see date entered AD this period. I would see number 2, I would see 02, I would see 2000. So I became active duty January 2nd of 2000. Then I have my obligation. So what I should see as the separation date of the period, let's say I do a 4-year contract. What I should see is January 1st, 2004. That gives me 4 years of service. You don't go all the way up to January 2nd because you get a day off for daylight or for what's it called, leap year. Then at the top here, reserve obligation term date. What you should see, or if I enlisted on January 2nd of 2000, I should see January 1st, 2008. That is the end of my obligated service. So you have an end of active obligated service, and then you have an end of obligated service. That time is what you have to do in the inactive ready reserves. It's not the same as, say, being in the Army reserves. You don't have to muster. You don't get deployed when there's like a flooding in your local state or whatever. For all intents and purposes, you're just kind of quasi still in the system, but you're not really doing anything. You're there in case, I don't know, aliens attack Washington, D.C. or something. Now, you will see the reserve obligation term date go to 00000 in a couple scenarios. So, for example, let's say I enlisted January 2nd of 2000, and let's say I got out, I don't know, May 15th, 2012. Well, I've already done the 8 years, so I don't have any obligated service left. You'll also see that goes 00000 if somebody is being discharged. They're not allowed to go into the inactive reserves. There's a number of reasons that this can happen. This happened to me. I originally went in with a 4-year contract. I extended for another 2 years. By the time I got out, because I got blown the flip up, by the time I was medically cleared, I was into like year 7 of active duty, and there was no way they were going to let me re-enlist. Why would they? I'm deaf. I have a hole in my face. At that point, I still had probably around 60 surgeries that I still had to get done on my leg, my arm, my face, my hip, and my spine. I was in they basically got me stable enough to where I could go into the medical reserve, or I could go into the veterans hospital system, but there was in no way, shape, or form that I'd be medically cleared to serve. You'll also see this happen when somebody gets kicked out of the military for whatever reason. So let's just jump down to here. Date, this is when this person enlisted. This is when they went to the medical examination station. We used to know it as MEPS. I don't know if it changed. This is where you do your ASVAB for real. This is the entrance exam that you have to take, where they basically determine what you're skilled at, what's your level of intelligence, what jobs you could possibly classify for. You get your medical screening. They do a really, really quickie background check, and then they tell you what jobs you can enlist for. And then, once you sign the dotted line, put your hand up or whatever, boom. You know what? I'm actually saying this wrong. I'm actually saying this wrong, completely wrong. That is before, that's after that screening. I'm sorry. This is the day they show up to boot camp. I'm being stupid. I'm being really, really stupid. You can tell this medication is messing with me. I apologize. That top date, 12 alpha, that is when this person showed up to boot camp. Excuse me. That B, that is when they were basically no longer on active duty. That's when they're like, you're done. So normally what I expect to see is the difference between these two to be 3 years, 4 years, or 6 years, generally, if you've only done one enlistment. Sometimes it gets a little funky because you can have somebody that does 4 years initially, and then they extend for 2 years, but then they decide to get out at their 6-year point. In that case, I would still see 2 years later, I would see that they would have an obligated term that they still had to serve. So they get their net positive. This particular person was in for 1 year, 4 months, and 15 days. Not very long. Total prior active service, you could switch from branch to branch. You could have somebody that goes blue to green. That's where you go Navy to Army and stuff like that. That's not very common. And then you have your total prior inactive service. This could be where, let's say I did a 3-year contract. I sit on the inactive ready reserves for like 4 years, and then I decide to go back in. Those 4 years of inactive ready reserve counts against this reserve obligation time. That way you don't get screwed for going back in. Foreign service for the Army, Air Force, and Marines. This is when you're deployed overseas. So this person was deployed for 4 months. Not a very long time. Sea service, that's what the Coast Guard and the Navy use. Because these guys, when they go out to sea, they're considered to be deployed. My God, I've seen some of these DD214 for the Navy guys. Holy cow. They do a lot of sea time depending on the command. This last one, H, this is very, very interesting. So I notice that I said that this person left the military as an E1. Well, they're in the military for 1 year and 4 months. What pay grade would I kind of expect them to be at? I'd expect them to be an E3. So if you go into boot camp, generally you come in as an E1 unless you got some college credit. Then you can go in as an E2 or an E3. Depends on how much college credit you have. And if you're in the Army, or I'm sorry, not Army, if you're in basic training, your drill sergeant could select you for a job. Let's say you're in charge of all the other knuckleheads. And if you do a good job and you put up with that crap, it's a crappy job to do, they'll bump you up a rank. It sounds like I talk from experience. That is the case. I left the boot camp as an E2. This effective date of pay grade is when the pay grade that you got, your last pay grade you were at when you got separated, that's when this person achieved that pay grade. So let's stop and think about this. The first time they got paid as an E1 was apparently March 3rd or March 2nd, 2004, and then they got out on August 24th, 2004. This is when this person had an Article 15 that got them in trouble. That's the date. I don't know what they did, but that's the date. So for example, if you were to look at my DD214, I'm not about to give you the DD214, don't even ask. But on my DD214, it says my pay grade. My last pay grade was an E1, and it says on the 12H, it basically says that I think it's 7 months before I got fully medically separated and kicked out that I made A6. That makes sense. I'm still advancing. Even in a hospital, I'm still advancing with time and rank. I still took the advancement exam, and so on. So I was able to continue to make rank even though I was really messed up. When somebody shows me a DD214 like this, with the way these numbers are laid out, and this is missing, you don't even have to tell me the nature of their discharge. I can tell you exactly. That's when they went to an Article 15. That is when they got in trouble. That's when they got punished. That's probably when they told this individual, you're gone. We're separating you. Now, why didn't they do this right before they leave? Well, that's because there's paperwork involved and so on. And this person may or may not have gotten local brig time. Your local command may have send this individual to a brig. I don't know. So, place of entry, that's basically wherever they basically left for boot camp. That's where it is. Mine says Baltimore, Maryland. Next one, their address. I don't want to look at that. Last duty assignment in major command. So this person got separated out at Fort Fort Carson. Golly, sorry, I can't talk. It is not unusual for somebody to get separated completely at a command that's completely different from where they were actually stationed. A great example that you probably know of, if I remind you, is the individual that tried to jump the border between North and South Korea. This was an Army guy who was a complete and utter F-up. And he was basically getting the worst kind of discharge a commanding officer could give you, which is other than honorable. Well, they can't just do the discharge in South Korea. So they were going to have him fly all the way back to Texas to a base that specializes in this. Carson probably does the same exact thing, where they were going to fly this person back on a C-130 or whatever, land them, go through all the paperwork, and then, okay, you're done. So if you're wondering why doesn't this person have, the last command station we're separated being a forward deployed command, they just don't do that. They don't. My DD214 shows that I separated from a command that is just a medical hospital. So it's just kind of how it works. Let's see. Command to which transferred. So let's say, go back to my original one where it says that I enlisted January 2nd of 2000, and let's say I do my 4 years, and I still have 4 more years of obligated service. Let's say that I don't know, I'm in the Navy. What I would see in in block 11, block 9, I would see in block 9 something like U.S. Naval Reserve Command or something. It would show that I'm basically, quote unquote, transferred over to the reserves because I'm still in the inactive reserves. If you ain't got no place to go, that place is blank. For me, that was blank. That's your insurance that you pay for. 25,000. That's the minimum. This individual did not try to prepare for the future if they got hurt, I guess. So, primary specialty. If you're in the Army, Air Force, Marines, you will get an MOS, Military Occupational Series Code. This will be typically 2 digits or 2 numbers and a couple of letters. So in this case, this individual is a 45 kilo tank turret repairer. This person worked on turrets. That's what they worked on. If you're in the Navy or the Coast Guard, it gets confusing because it's like a 4-digit numbers, and you're supposed to know what that is. The 1 year and 2 months, that's how much time this individual was in the Army allowed to do this job before they just gave up. So, for example, for me, I ended up being around 6-7 years. My DD214, it shows my original MOS, and then it has on there 6-7 years, however long I was on active duty before I got hurt. Or not before I got hurt, before I finally got separated. When it says nothing follows, # nothing follows, that means they have nothing to add. It's a little weird how the Army does this, because like my branch, they fill it in because they don't want idiots messing around with this and trying to lie about their background and stuff. Record of service, we already talked about this. Again, if you're wondering, when apparently did everything go pear-shaped for this individual, that is the exact date. That is when, I should say, that is the date. When you go to an Article 15 and take away rank from you, it's like a 15-day period. So basically that date and 15 days forward, that's the window where they had the Article 15. Because that's when their rank changed and their pay grade changed. And they went, whoo, all the way down. Now, granted, only being in for 1 year and 4 months, not much rank to make. To get E4, you have to be, it's like 24 months if you're starting from E1 to E4. So, yeah. Next, decorations, medals, citation, badges, and all that fun crap. These things are stupid. Like, just in general, they're stupid. Most of them don't mean anything anymore, and they just give them out like candy. Like, the Bronze Star used to be a combat ribbon in like World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. The U.S. Air Force now treats that as an award that you give to a supply officer. It's a real joke. But we got National Defense Service Medal. This is known as a CNN award. You get this whenever Congress decides to just hand it out. I know I got mine originally for watching the towers go down on 9/11 on CNN, hence why we called it the CNN award when I was in. Then we got a GWAPS XP, and we got a GWAP. So Global War on Terrorism XP, Global War on Terrorism. These are kind of sort of campaign ribbons, I guess. One of them is supposed to be for Iraq, the other one's supposed to be for Afghanistan. I'm not sure which one is which. I don't really care. I have both. I've never stepped foot in Iraq. The theater for both of these places are so goddamn wide, I wouldn't be surprised you could be stationed in Delaware and get one. They're pointless. Everybody gets them. Army Service Ribbon. Army Service Ribbon is what the Army gives to every single person that finishes their MOS training. So if this person was going to be whatever the MOS is for pumping sewage treatment tanks, as soon as they graduate from Army pumping sewage treatment tank class school, they get this stupid ribbon. It's all participation. This is kind of a sore spot for me because one of the reasons I used to hate all the ribbons and stuff was I I used to have to go to like command function stuff, like galas and stuff. So I'd have to be in like a pressed, dressed uniform and stuff. And it would never fail. I would get some junior officer or some senior enlisted guy that would try to start crap with me because I somehow got these ribbons slightly out of order. And I'm just like, motherfreaker, who cares? Like, why don't you bother me when either one of you get your first combat ribbon? Like, fuck off. It's a sore spot for me because I used to get so much crap for my attitude about that. So, military education, armament repairer course, 18 weeks, nothing follows. Honestly, that kind of makes sense. They were in for so short period of time. Like mine, really, really long, really, really long. Because as you go to more and more training and stuff, um, every time you go to like new specialty training, they have to add it. I remember one time, I think it was after my second deployment where I was basically running the show as the NCO. Like my command was like my immediate command was like, "Hey Smith, have you ever gone to like NCO candidate school?" I was like, "No, that sounds stupid. I'm already doing the job." Like, "Yeah, we were supposed to do that before you took the job over. So we're gonna go ahead and send you to that." And so like on my thing it has something like 4 weeks NCO. I learned how to be the job that I was already fucking doing. It was something like I don't honestly remember. I repress a lot of the stupid stuff from the military. Let's see. Member contributed to the post-Vietnam era Vietnam Educational Assistance Program. I forget what this is. I also did not put money into this. I don't remember exactly what it was. By the way, the GI Bill you have to pay for. So like if you don't get an honorable discharge, even though you paid into the GI Bill, you don't get the money back. This is one of the things I would always tell my guys. Like, hey, I know you hate working for me. I know you hate being in the military. I know you hate all this shit. But for the love of God, just do the bare minimum so you get an honorable discharge. You don't have to. You get the money that you put in. High school graduate or equivalent. I know it looks like this person graduated with either a GED or a high school diploma. Days accrued leave pay. I'm trying to remember this. Oh, this is the this is this is the number of days that the military bought back from this person. So you get 30 days of leave every year. That sounds like a lot. The big thing is you don't get to take leave whenever the fuck you want. And then you can carry over 30 days to the next, but once you hit 60 days, you can't pile up anymore. And generally speaking, the military really does not let you sell back your days. They don't. What they try to make you do is they try to make you take like terminal leave. So like you're getting out of the military, they let you out early. That way they don't have to pay you for those days. If you stop and think about it, it's kind of dickish. Because I know for me, I was in the hospital for pretty much the last year that I was in the military. I couldn't take a single goddamn day of leave. And so what they ended up doing was they had me go on like something ridiculous. Like I think I went on like 47 days of terminal leave because they didn't want to give me a fat check of 45 days worth of pay. When I say 40 fat check, I mean E1 pay as opposed to an E1 or I'm sorry E6 pay. As compared to an E1, it wouldn't be that much money. So let's see. Did herein subject to computer matching? Yes, no kidding. You can't just show up with a document like this and not expect this to be verified. This is where a lot of people that try to fucking change their DD214 and they somehow think that this is going to somehow get them their benefits that they cost themselves. No, it's not going to work. Let's see. Delayed entry program. That's kind of what you're. Like apparently this person was a delayed entry program. That's where you kind of have to wait the class up to go into the military. Member has not completed first term of service. That's the big one. That basically means that this individual probably does not have their GI Bill benefits. And that sucks. They were apparently in Iraq for 4 months. And so because of that, they should get their danger pay for the 4 months of being deployed. I'm not exactly sure how that would necessarily work for somebody in the rear with the gear, but I would imagine that they would get some benefits from being deployed. For example, a lot of people don't realize this. When I was deployed, I didn't have to pay federal taxes when the time I was deployed. Now, unfortunately for me, being from Maryland, I had to pay Maryland state taxes, which was a real kick in the teeth. I really should have changed my state or I should have changed my state of wherever the military considered my state. Oops, accidentally hit the wrong button. My bad. So Maryland and US after separation. There's no reason to look at that. Closest low relative. So we're not going to look at that. Their signature and so on. Now we get down to the really, really interesting part. This is the stuff that I tell people, do not share. Do not share. Do not give to people. So, damn it. Sorry. I don't have my mouse. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab my mouse. I apologize for that. I realize that is probably incredibly annoying. So, type of separation, discharge. This is typical. See that discharge. Like, you're getting discharged. Everybody gets discharged. Honorable discharge, so on. Then the character of service. Under honorable conditions, general. So, what the heck does this mean? It's kind of hard to explain. I think everybody kind of sort of imagines that the military is very, very straightforward and very, very descriptive. Like if A happens, then B, then C, then D. And it gets a little bit messy. The general rule of thumb is everybody gets an honorable discharge. That means you didn't fuck up too bad. You might have gone to an Article 15 or so on, but at the end of the day, nobody really wanted to mess with you. You did your time. I got an honorable discharge. The vast majority of people I know got honorable discharges, and so on. Then we run into the general under honorable conditions. So what is that? The rule of thumb is this is usually stuff that outside of the military, no big deal. Inside of the military, this is a punishable offense. So what am I talking about? Let's say somebody's dipping their pen in the company ink. One of your coworkers is slagging it with your boss. Is your boss going to get into trouble? Not necessarily, especially if he owns a place, he ain't getting in trouble. Nothing really illegal about it. He's a dumbass, but there's nothing illegal about it. In the military, you'll get fucked. Military don't like this. Because unlike a company that sucks to work for because your boss is dicking your coworker, you can't quit the military. So the military tends to clamp down on this pretty hard. This is not like DUI. And let's say you get a DUI and you hit somebody, you hurt them, and the military decides to really make an example out of you. They are not giving you a general under honorable condition. They're probably going to give you an other than honorable kind of thing. Now, the general under honorable condition isn't so bad because they use this for everything. They use it for if you're gay, they use it if you fail a urinalysis just once, and so on. And there's no real way of knowing, with the exception of separations code. So give me 1 second because I'm going to pull something up. So you can look these up, military separation codes, and they're going to be kind of different from which branch they are, and so on. They're very descriptive. Like, for example, they have it here, death, battle, Navy. It's all kinds of stuff in here. Let's see, homosexuality, BLC, drug use, BLF. They'll even have it where it's like, they'll have different ways of describing homosexuality and stuff. Drug use, homosexuality again, sexual perversion, sexual perversions. The reason you're seeing these multiple times is because different branches will use different codes for this kind of stuff. So if we jump back to here, JKL, JKC, discreditable actions, civilian or military. That's pretty interesting. discreditable actions, civilian or military. Really makes you think, doesn't it? What the frick could this possibly be? Or I'm sorry, not actions, incidences. What could this be? So have I ever seen somebody get a general under honorable with this specific code? One time. One time. I am not saying that this is universally the case. I am merely stating that this is the one situation that I saw this. Had a guy, he was from Illinois. We did a deployment with him. Everybody goes on leave, goes see family and stuff. We get done, we get some time off. This knucklehead came back with a shaved head, and he had 2 eyes tattooed in the back of his head. For those of you that don't know what that is a white nationalist prison symbol. Basically, you can't stab me in the back in the showers. My eyes are always on you. He also had a couple of other pieces, like the SS lightning bolts he had put on a bicep. I have no earthly idea why this guy thought that this was a good idea. I don't know why he thought or why he had these feelings. I certainly didn't know he had these feelings. And once he advertised them, we had to get rid of them. We couldn't keep them. Couldn't keep them. I remember he tried to say, well, I can keep this one covered up and I'll grow my hair out. I'm like, too late, dumbass. We already see it. I don't know why you did this. This is not illegal in the civilian world. This sure as shit will get you kicked out of the military. Again, I had no idea why this guy had these feelings. And a pro tip, if you are like a white nationalist, a black nationalist, a Hispanic nationalist, whatever the shit, you can't get along with people from your other backgrounds, why on earth would you think to go in the military? That is beyond me. I didn't know a word of Spanish until I enlisted in the military. By the time I got out, I'm fluent. If you don't like minorities, the military ain't for you. It'll never be for you. And if you got them feelings, you better keep that shit tucked in real deep below. The only people I routinely heard of getting in trouble for this were people that were getting gang tattoos and stuff. Real dumbasses. I don't know if that's the case with this individual. I don't know. But this is one of those codes that they used for somebody that would pull a stunt like this. No idea. This is why it is really stupid for people to share the separation code. And I always tell people this. I don't care if you got an honorable discharge. All people need to see is you got an honorable discharge. You get a general and an honorable condition, do not show that separation code. Just don't show it. And then worst comes to worst, they bug you about it, be like, yeah, they thought I was gay and they kicked me out. And then they can't talk to you about that at all. But this JKA thing is pretty alarming. Like, this is where somebody did something where you got to understand, it's not even like unit cohesion and stuff. A lot of people already have a bad impression of the military. They think we're dumbasses and morons and knuckle draggers and so on. And in military towns, we're often seen as the cause of a lot of issues. You cannot have somebody in the military walking around with tattoos and stuff like this. And it's not just tattoos. You can't have a military member going on to like Facebook and crap or some kind of message board and posting highly offensive, inappropriate stuff, edgelord crap. You can't. Because whether you want to admit it or not, as a service member, you represent all of us. I have a very low opinion of this kind of crap. I really do. I don't expect everybody to be AJ squared away kind of crap, but I also expect my fellow service member and my fellow veteran to recognize that we all get colored with the same brush. So that code, that ain't a good code. I don't know exactly what it is, but whatever it was severe enough that this individual had to go to an Article 15, get stripped all the way down to E1, and then bounced out of the military after the military already spent a fortune training this individual, having their ass in a contract where they have to do at least 4 years of active duty, and the military goes, nah, this ain't worth it. We want you gone. And again, the honorable thing just means that they didn't do anything that is technically illegal outside in the civilian world. It's not a bad discharge per se, as long as you don't show that code. And I know plenty of folks that got the general under honorable conditions where it was like for homosexuality or whatever. I will say this, every single guy that I've ever met that got kicked out for being gay, they just said they were gay to get separated because they didn't want to finish their contract for whatever reason. Going gay, saying you're gay is a lot easier than other ways of getting out. Even now, though, it's gotten much, much more difficult. And then, of course, narrative reason for separation, misconduct. Just misconduct. We have to get rid of you. So I don't want to make it sound like I know exactly why this person got separated, because I don't. But I do see enough here, and I can read the tea leaves, where this is not a positive discharge in any way, shape, or form. So what did this mean to this person long term? Well, one, no GI Bill. That's gone. And I will argue that is the single greatest thing you get as a veteran. You have to pay for it. You put your first couple of paychecks basically into this to get those GI Bill benefits. And GI Bill benefits is what can change your life for the better. It is what turned me into a husk of a human being, into a successful engineer, a loving husband, and a loving father. I would have none of that without the GI Bill. I would do anything to prevent losing that GI Bill. I put up with so much crap that if I didn't have the GI Bill on the line, I'd be like, screw this noise. I'm out of here. So that's what they lost. Now, in terms of medical benefits and any kind of service-connected injuries and all, this doesn't touch that. I don't necessarily think, like, for example, the guy that had the freaking idiot Nazi tattoos that he got over while on leave back home. Do I think he should be in the military on active duty? No. Do I believe he should still have medical coverage and so on for the fact that he went over into Afghanistan, saw some really harsh shit, and got hurt? Yes. He deserves that. But I don't think he should. I think he should really consider some of the dumb things that I think most people that get tattoos are idiots anyway. But so on. Dates of time lost during this period. This is basically how much time you went AWOL, or if you deserted, it counts the time. In this case, it's 0, so whoever this individual is never went AWOL. All their time was done. Their time was intentionally shortened. They didn't do their 4 years, but they wouldn't consider the lack of the 4 years being complete as AWOL time. So I hope I answered some of your questions. I know I probably didn't answer all the questions that you might have, and unfortunately, I can't answer those. This is what it is. And again, this is a completely random DD214 that I found. If you are a military veteran, do not post crap like this online. Do not. Be very careful who you share this information with. If you're applying for a job in which they want to see a copy of your DD214, one, you need to get a certified copy through the VA. You get the option of selecting, do you want copies of your DD214, like 4 copies sent or 5 copies sent to the state VA? You should always check yes. Get that process started. That way the VA knows you need to be put into the system. And 2, you should get a representative from the VA to literally stamp a copy of this. And the stamp says this is verified to be a certified, authorized copy with a signature and a date. That's the one you're going to use. But even then, if people want to see a copy of it, you're going to redact stuff. They don't need to see the whole damn thing. They don't need to see your discharge code, that's for sure, or your separation code. That really is not necessary. Especially, you could block this stuff out. You don't, because some of the separation codes are pretty innocuous, but it can get a little confusing. And on top of this, you already got it where it says general under honorable conditions. So that sounds good enough. So you should be fine. But that's just my input. I hope you all took something away from this, and I hope you all have a pleasant day and so on. Hopefully my health will get a little bit better because in, in a couple of weeks I have to go to my least favorite place on the planet, which is Canada, for a couple of jobs. I'm not looking forward to that. I hope you all take care. Take care of each other, check in on family and friends and so on. Have a good day.